15-second hook. When a young girl watched her family dragged through the dust, accused of a crime they never committed, she felt her heart shatter. The village drums that once comforted her now felt like war drums beating against her chest. But what no one knew was that this quiet girl would soon rise, guided by ancient spirits, to expose a dark secret buried deep within the Elders' Council. And when she returned for revenge. Part 1. The Night of the False Accusation. Almost equals 2,000 words. The sun was sinking behind the orange-rimmed hills as the village of Okwand prepared for nightfall. Children were completing their games. Mothers were returning from the river with heavy clay pots balanced gracefully on their heads, and the soft, rhythmic beats of drums floated across the warm African air. It was a normal evening, the kind that brought comfort, the kind that made every villager feel safe. But for Kalima, a 14-year-old girl with deep, thoughtful eyes and braids decorated with tiny blue cowrie shells, the night would soon become a memory carved painfully into her soul. Her father, Musa, a respected hunter, was seated outside their mud-brick hut, sharpening his spear. Her mother, Tari, stirred a pot of groundnut stew as the smell of herbs and roasted peppers drifted out. Kalima's younger brother, Tund, hummed to himself while playing with a carved wooden lion their father had made. Everything felt peaceful. Until the drums changed. Boom. Boom boom. Boom. A pattern no one ever wanted to hear. The rhythm of summoning. The rhythm of accusation. Kalima's mother froze. "Those are council drums," she whispered. Her father stopped sharpening the spear and stood slowly. "At this hour," he murmured, confusion clouding his face. Before anyone could speak again, a group of warriors emerged from the darkness, their torches casting long shadows like hungry spirits reaching across the ground. At their head was Elder Jabari, a tall, thin man with sunken cheeks and eyes that always seemed to judge everyone he saw. Kalima had never liked him. The warriors stopped in front of their hut. The fire crackled between them, throwing flickering light across Jabari's hard expression. "Musa," Jabari announced loudly, "by the authority of the Elders' Council, you and your family are summoned immediately." Musa frowned. "For what reason?" Jabari's lips curled with disdain. "Do not pretend ignorance. You know very well why." Kalima felt her heart thumping against her ribs. Her mother grabbed Tun's hand and pulled him close. "No," Musa said calmly. "I do not." Jabari lifted a carved staff and pointed it straight at Musa's chest. "You stand accused," he declared, "of stealing sacred medicinal herbs from the ancestral shrine." Gasps burst from neighbors who peeked from behind their huts. Kalima felt as if the earth beneath her feet shifted. Her father? Steal? From the ancestors? It was impossible. Musa was the most honorable man she knew. Tai stepped forward. "This is a lie," she cried. "My husband would never." "Silence!" Jabari snapped, and two warriors stepped forward threateningly. Kalima's small hands curled into fists. She could feel something burning inside her, fear, anger, confusion, all tangled together. Her father remained steady, but she saw his jaw tighten. "I have never taken anything from the shrine," Musa said firmly. "Who accuses me?" Jabari smirked. "The ancestors themselves." The crowd murmured nervously. No one questioned statements like that. No one dared. Kalima's eyes darted toward the forest beyond the village, dark, mysterious, and sacred. She knew that only special herbalists, chosen by the council, were allowed to enter the shrine. Her father did not even know the path. "Bring them," Jabari ordered. Two warriors grabbed Musa by the arms. Kalima's mother screamed and tried to reach him, but another warrior shoved her back so hard she stumbled to the ground. "Stop!" Kalima shouted, running to help her mother. "He didn't do anything." A warrior struck Kalima across the face with the back of his hand. She fell. Dirt filled her mouth. The world rang. Her father roared with anger. "Do not touch my daughter." But Jabari only lifted his hand. "Enough. The council will judge you all." Her father froze. "All?" he repeated. "Yes," Jabari replied coldly. The entire household is guilty. You are a family of thieves. Kalima's mother trembled, holding Tund tightly against her chest. The little boy began crying, tiny sobs shaking his body. And then the marching began, torches lighting their path, warriors forcing them forward. Kalima's cheek throbbed, but she stood tall, holding her mother's arm. She had to be strong. She didn't know what was happening, but she felt it, something horrible, something unfair, something twisted. The villagers watched from a distance, some whispering, some shaking their heads. But no one stepped forward. Fear made people cowards. The council grounds were surrounded by towering wooden totems carved with ancestral faces, some fierce, some kind. They glowed under the torchlight, looking alive and watchful. In the center stood the elders' circle, where judgments were made. As Kalima and her family were forced to kneel, the elders slowly emerged from the darkness, their ceremonial robes swaying like restless spirits. Elder Numbi, the only woman among them, looked troubled. Elder Kofi, an old man with a white beard that touched his chest, watched silently. And at the center, with a confident, self-satisfied smirk, stood Elder Jabari. Kalima felt hatred rise in her chest like fire. Musa, Elder Kofi began, you are accused of trespassing into the sacred shrine and taking the medicinal herb known as Malondo, reserved only for ancestral rites. This sacred item was found hidden near your hunting grounds. That is not true. Musa replied. Someone placed it there. Jabari stepped forward. Are you accusing the council of deception? Musa glared at him. I am accusing someone of framing me. Tund cried softly. Taui wrapped her arm around him, biting her lip to keep herself from screaming. Kalima scanned the elders' faces, looking for fairness, looking for humanity. But most stared blankly, as if the decision had been made long before her family even arrived. She dared to speak. My father would never offend the ancestors. Children do not speak here, Elder Jabari snapped. Numbi shot him a sharp look, but she remained silent. Kofi sighed heavily. We have heard enough. The ancestors must be respected. The village cannot tolerate such acts. Kalima's chest tightened. They weren't listening. They didn't care. Then Jabari raised his staff high into the air. For the crime of desecrating the sacred shrine, he shouted, this family shall be banished from the village of Okwand, forever. Gasps echoed across the circle. Kalima felt the world tilt. Tai screamed. No. Please, our children. Jabari banged his staff against the ground. Silence. The warriors pulled Tai away. You cannot do this. Musa shouted, struggling against the warriors holding him. Jabari smirked. It is done. Kalima's throat tightened. She felt like she couldn't breathe. The elders were watching her family like they were insects to be crushed. The villagers had gathered behind the totems, whispering but not stepping forward to help. No one fought for them. The council's decision was final. Take them to the edge of the village, Jabari commanded. They are not permitted to return. Anyone who shelters them will face the same fate. Kalima felt cold suddenly, despite the warm night air. She looked at the elders again. Elder Numbi's eyes glistened with something like sorrow or guilt, but she didn't speak. Elder Kofi looked torn, but he also remained silent. And so it began. The loudest silence Kalima had ever heard. The walk to the village gate felt endless. Torches flickered. Warriors marched beside them. Villagers stared as if watching a funeral procession. Kalima held her mother's hand tightly. Tund shuffled beside her, face streaked with tears. Her father walked in front, shoulders heavy but unbroken. When they reached the boundary, the line drawn in clay that marked the village's spiritual protection, Jabari approached them once more. You step beyond this, he said. You are nothing. Not villagers. Not people of Okwand. You will be as dust. He smiled cruelly. Kalima wanted to spit at him. She wanted to scream. But her mother's trembling hand kept her grounded. Go, Jabari said. A warrior shoved Musa hard. He stumbled across the boundary. Kalima's mother followed. Tun stepped out, sobbing. Kalima crossed last, teeth clenched. Behind them, the massive wooden gate slammed shut. The sound echoed like thunder across the night. Kalima flinched. Her mother collapsed to her knees, weeping loudly. Her father knelt and held her, his hands shaking for the first time. For a long moment, all Kalima heard was crying. The drums in the distance played softly again, mocking them. Kalima looked at the village lights fading behind the wooden gate. Her cheek still burned where she had been struck. Her heart felt heavier than anything she had ever carried. "This is wrong," she whispered. Her father looked at her, eyes full of pain. "I know." Kalima stared into the dark forest ahead, vast, ancient, and filled with spirits both good and dangerous. Something inside her twisted. Something fierce. "They will pay for this," she said softly, voice trembling not with fear, but with awakening fire. Her mother looked at her in alarm, but Kalima didn't look away from the forest. A warm breeze blew across her face, rustling the leaves as if the spirits themselves were whispering. And for the first time, she felt it. The ancestors calling her. Not the elders. Not the villagers. But something deeper. Older. Watching her. Her destiny was beginning. And she would not be the same girl by the time she returned. She would become something else. Something stronger. Something unstoppable. Because they had taken everything from her family. And she would get it back. With Revenge. Part 2. Into the Forest of Spirits. 2,000 words. The night swallowed them whole as Kalima and her family moved deeper into the wildlands beyond Okwand. The moon hung low, filtered through the towering acacia trees that stood like silent guards. The sounds of insects, the distant cry of a night bird, the rhythm of leaves brushing against each other. All of it felt louder now, sharper now, as if the forest were watching their every step. Tund clung to their mother's wrapper, eyes wide with fear. Musa walked ahead, shoulders tense, scanning every shadow as if expecting danger to leap forward. Kalima walked close, her heart heavy but burning with something else, determination. Her cheek still throbbed from the warrior's slap, yet she didn't wipe the dried tear resting there. It felt like a reminder of injustice, a reminder of what they had lost. They reached a small clearing where ancient boulders stood half-buried in the earth, coated with moss like old scars. Musa stopped. "We will rest here," he said quietly. Tai sank to the ground, exhausted. She held Tund close, rocking him gently, whispering, "It will be all right, my son, we will find a way." Kalima sat beside her mother, though her mind was restless. Everything played in her head on repeat, the council's cold eyes, the villagers turning away, Jabari's wicked smirk. She clenched her fists. Her father sat on a fallen log, staring into the darkness with empty eyes. It broke Kalima's heart. Musa had never looked defeated. Not when lions stalked his hunting trails, not when drought threatened their crops, not even when illness had once swept through the village. But tonight, something in him was shattered. Kalima swallowed hard. She couldn't sit quietly anymore. "Father," she said softly, "who would do this to us?" "Why?" Musa didn't answer immediately. He wiped his face with a tired hand. "There are things happening in Okwand," he finally murmured, "things darker than most people see. Some among the council hunger for power. And when men hunger, they destroy whatever stands in their way." Tai looked up sharply. "You think they wanted you out of the village?" Musa gave a slow, bitter nod. "Jabari has despised me for years. Ever since your grandfather refused to support him when he tried to take control of the council." Kalima's eyes widened. Her grandfather had been a respected elder before his passing. She remembered him faintly, the warm eyes, the carved walking stick, the stories he told of ancestors who lived inside the forest. But she hadn't known this. She hadn't known Jabari carried such a grudge. "So he lied," Kalima whispered. "He lied to everyone just to punish us." Musa's jaw tightened. "Yes." Rage crackled through Kalima's veins. A fire she had never felt before. Tun tugged on Tai's wrapper. "Mama, where will we go now?"
Tai stroked his hair. We will find another village.
We will survive. But Kalima felt the forest shift around them. The leaves rustled with a strange rhythm.
The ground seemed to hum under her palms. It was as if the forest disagreed. The night deepened.
A cold wind swept through the clearing, chilling their bones. Tai wrapped Tund in a cloth. Musa built a small fire from dry twigs, but the flames struggled to stay alive, flickering weakly. Kalima stared into the fire, unable to sleep.
Her mind was too loud.
Suddenly, she heard it.
A whisper. Soft.
Barely a breath.
But somewhere in the trees.
She lifted her head, skin prickling. Father, did you hear that? Musa listened carefully, but the whisper faded into silence.
He shook his head.
Probably the wind.
But Kalima knew the wind.
And this was not the wind. She stood slowly, feeling pulled, drawn, toward the darkness behind the clearing. Kalima.
Tai called softly.
Where are you going?
Kalima hesitated. Just over there. I need some air.
Tai nodded tiredly, too drained to question further. Kalima stepped away from the fire, her feet carrying her deeper into the shadows. The trees towered above her, branches intertwined like ancient fingers. She could feel the air vibrating, warm and cold at the same time. Then she heard it again. Kalima.
Her breath caught in her throat. Someone had whispered her name.
She spun around, heart racing.
Who's there? Silence.
Then a gentle light flickered between the trees, a soft blue glow hovering like a floating ember. Kalima stepped closer, mesmerized. The glow shifted, taking form. Not quite human, not quite spirit, something in between. A silhouette of light, gently pulsing like a heartbeat. Kalima's fear evaporated, replaced by awe.
Are you an ancestor? She whispered.
The glowing figure tilted its head, and the whisper came again, this time clearer. You have been wronged, child of Okwand.
Kalima's eyes widened.
Yes, my father, my family, none of this is fair. They banished us for something we didn't do. The spirit drifted closer, circling her gently. Kalima felt its warmth, like a hand resting on her shoulder. The truth has been buried, it said, hidden beneath greed and fear. The shrine was not desecrated by your father. It was desecrated by those who claimed to protect it. Kalima's breath trembled.
I knew it. Jabari.
The spirit pulsed brighter, as if acknowledging the name. Only you can reveal the truth. Kalima took a step back, startled.
Me?
I'm just a girl. The spirit's voice softened. The forest has chosen you. The ancestors have whispered your name for weeks.
We watched your courage.
Your heart burns with justice, with strength you do not yet understand. Kalima felt something sharp inside her, like something rising from deep within, something long buried waking up.
What must I do? She asked.
The spirit lifted a glowing hand, and the air shimmered. Suddenly, the ground beneath Kalima's feet glowed with patterns, symbols she had seen only during ancient rituals carved into ceremonial masks.
Ancestral symbols.
You must enter the forest of spirits, the spirit whispered. There lies the truth. The forest will test you, challenge you, reveal things you are not ready to see. But if your heart remains pure, you will emerge ready to restore your family's honor. Kalima felt her chest tighten. Will I be alone?
No child enters the forest alone.
The spirits will walk with you. Kalima hesitated, thinking of her family, her mother crying, her father broken, Tund frightened. She thought of the village she loved, the home she lost, the injustice burning through her veins.
She straightened her back.
I will do it, she whispered. The spirit pulsed again, glowing bright enough to light the trees around her. Then the path opens for you. But be warned, once you begin, you cannot turn back. Suddenly, the trees behind the spirit shifted, parting silently to reveal a narrow pathway glowing with faint blue light.
Kalima gasped. A path that wasn't there moments before.
The forest of spirits had opened for her.
Go, child, the spirit said.
Your destiny waits. Kalima stepped forward. 1 step, 2 steps, feeling the pulse of ancient power in the ground beneath her feet.
But then,
Kalima!
She froze.
It was her father's voice, calling from the clearing. Kalima, where are you?
She looked back at the glowing path, then at the trees, then at the spirit.
It whispered, your family must not know, not yet.
Their fear will stop you.
You must return to them before dawn and leave at first light.
Kalima nodded slowly.
The spirit's glow dimmed. We will meet again. And just like that, it vanished, fading into mist, leaving Kalima alone with the echo of its last words ringing in her ears. She returned to the clearing, her heart pounding with what she had seen.
Musa rushed toward her.
Kalima!
Are you all right?
Where did you go?
She forced a small smile.
I just needed to think.
Her mother hugged her tightly.
Don't scare us like that again. Kalima held them back, feeling a new kind of strength flowing inside her.
She did not sleep that night.
She watched the darkness shift, listened to the forest breathe, and waited for the first sign of dawn.
Because tomorrow, her journey would begin. Not to run, not to hide, but to uncover the truth, to expose the corruption, to reclaim everything stolen from her family.
And when she returned to Okwand, she would not return as a helpless girl. She would return as a warrior guided by ancient spirits. And Jabari would tremble. Part 3, The Trials of the Ancestors.
2,000 words.
Before the next sunrise, the forest was still wrapped in a bluish haze, cool and damp like the breath of ancient spirits lingering over the earth. The crickets had fallen silent as if they too sensed something shifting in the air. Kalima stood at the edge of the clearing where her family slept, watching the sky brighten slowly behind the treetops. Her mother lay curled beside Tund, both exhausted from the night of grief. Musa sat nearby, sharpening his spear again, though the movement was slow, almost mechanical, as if he wasn't truly present.
Kalima swallowed hard. Father, she whispered. He looked up, weary eyes softening.
Yes, my child.
She hesitated. A lump rose in her throat.
She hated lying to him, even a little, but the spirit's warning echoed in her mind.
I want to explore and gather some roots.
Maybe I can find something for Tund to drink. He cried so much last night.
Musa's face softened further. You have your mother's heart. But don't go far.
I won't.
He touched her shoulder gently.
Kalima, thank you for being strong.
Something twisted inside her chest. She nodded, fighting back emotion.
She turned away quickly and walked toward the part of the forest where the spirit had first appeared. The trees were still, but the moment she stepped closer, the air shifted, warm, like a breath sliding past her ear.
A faint whisper echoed.
You return.
Kalima exhaled slowly.
I'm ready.
The forest responded.
The same glowing blue path unfurled from between the trees, illuminating the undergrowth like moonlight trapped in water. She felt drawn to it, as though invisible hands were gently guiding her forward. She stepped onto the path. Instantly, the world behind her seemed to fall away, muffled, distant, like a memory dissolving into fog. The forest before her was darker, deeper, thicker with ancient energy.
And so her journey began.
As Kalima walked, the light beneath her feet pulsed softly, guiding her between twisting roots, thorny vines, and tall trees whose bark was covered in mysterious carvings, symbols she had only seen during rituals or painted on the tribal drum skins used at new moon ceremonies. Faces carved into the trunks seemed to glow faintly, eyes following her, judging her, measuring her worth.
She swallowed, pushing fear aside.
I'm not turning back, she whispered. The path narrowed and soon opened into a circular clearing filled with shimmering white mist. In the center stood an old stone basin filled with water so still it looked like polished obsidian. A figure emerged from the mist, tall, with features carved from light and shadow. Not the gentle spirit from last night. This one radiated power. I am Isoba, First ancestor of the forest, the figure declared, voice echoing in all directions as if the trees themselves spoke with him. To reclaim your family's honor, you must pass the 3 trials of truth.
Kalima's heart pounded.
I'm ready. Then hear this, Isoba continued. The forest does not test the body, it tests the soul. Only a heart unbroken by fear can carry truth where lies have rooted deep.
Kalima nodded, though sweat dampened her palms.
Isoba raised his arm, and the water in the stone basin rippled. The first trial begins. The mist thickened, swirling around Kalima like a cocoon. The air grew colder. Her breath turned visible. She hugged her arms around herself as the world blurred. Then shifted. When the mist cleared, Kalima stumbled back. She was standing in the village of Okwand. Her home. Perfect. Untouched. Children played. Women ground maize. Men laughed around the fire. It was exactly as she remembered it before the banishment. Her heart clenched painfully. Kalima. She spun around, and there stood her mother, smiling, warm, alive in a way she hadn't been since the council's decision.
Kalima almost cried out.
Mama.
Tund ran to her and hugged her legs.
Musa approached, placing a hand on her head affectionately. You're safe, he said. You're home.
Kalima's throat tightened. Tears stung her eyes.
Father, how is this possible?
But the moment she said it, a part of her knew something was wrong. This wasn't real. This wasn't their life. This was a temptation.
The spirit's voice whispered through the wind. The first trial is the trial of longing. Kalima shook her head slowly, stepping away from her father's touch.
You're not real, she whispered.
Tund laughed, tugging her braids. Kalima, you're being silly.
Kalima's eyes burned.
Oh, how she wanted this. Her brother's laughter, her mother's warmth, her father's pride.
She wanted their home back. She wanted their life back. But lies could be beautiful. And traps always looked inviting. She closed her eyes. Tears streamed down her cheeks. I want this more than anything, she whispered. But I can't stay. My real family needs me. My real village has wronged us. And I must fix it.
She knelt, kissed Tund's forehead, then stood and stepped back as the illusion flickered.
Her mother's smile faded into disappointment. Musa's proud stance collapsed into emptiness.
Tund's laughter twisted into an eerie echo. The village shimmered like water, then shattered into fragments of light blown away by wind. The mist cleared, and Kalima stood again before the stone basin.
Isoba's glowing form watched her with approval.
You have passed the first trial, he said. You did not lose yourself to longing.
Kalima wiped her eyes.
What next? The second trial, Isoba said, will test courage.
He raised his arm again. The forest trembled.
Suddenly, the ground beneath her split open like a jagged mouth. Kalima screamed as she plummeted, landing in darkness. The cavern was damp, cold, filled with strange glowing fungi that cast eerie green light across jagged rocks. Water dripped from stalactites like slow, measured heartbeats.
Then she heard it. A growl. Deep. Rumbling. Too large to belong to anything human. Kalima froze.
From the deeper shadows, enormous red eyes emerged. 2 at first.
Then 4. Then 6.
The creature stepped forward, massive and terrifying, its body like a panther's but larger, its hide smoky and shifting like living shadow, long fangs glowing faintly with blue flame. A Nyokgor, a mythical guardian beast of the forest, rumored to devour the unworthy.
Kalima's legs trembled. Sweat dripped down her back.
The beast growled again, low and warning. Do not run, she whispered to herself. Don't run. The creature prowled closer.
Each step shook the ground.
Its breath was hot, heavy with ancient power.
Kalima forced her mind to stop screaming. She steadied her breath.
Ancestors guide me, she murmured. When the beast lunged, she dove aside, rolling over stones. The creature roared, slashing its claws across the cavern floor, sending sparks flying.
Kalima scrambled to her feet, panting.
She grabbed a fallen branch, nothing compared to the beast, but it was something.
The Nyokgo snarled, eyes burning like coals. Kalima remembered something her father always said.
A warrior's strength is not in her weapon, but in her heart. She swallowed her fear and stepped forward, raising the branch. I'm not afraid of you, she said loudly, voice shaking but resolute.
I won't run. The Nyokgo roared and charged.
Kalima braced herself. But instead of crushing her, the beast skidded to a halt inches away.
It lowered its head. The beast was bowing.
Kalima gasped, lowering her branch slowly.
The Nyokgo's glowing eyes softened.
Its form shimmered, then dissolved into smoke, rising upward and vanishing like dust carried by wind.
The cavern around her cracked with light.
And Kalima found herself once more standing before the stone basin, chest rising and falling rapidly.
Isoba nodded with deep respect. You showed courage.
You faced fear without surrender.
Kalima exhaled shakily.
What is the final trial? The third trial, Isoba said, is the hardest. The trial of truth. Kalima steeled herself. Show me.
Isoba raised both arms. The ground trembled violently. The trees surrounding them bent as if pushed by unseen winds. The air grew heavy. Kalima's vision blurred again.
Then sharpened into a dimly lit place she recognized with a shudder.
The ancestral shrine of Okwand.
But it wasn't the peaceful, sacred place she remembered from stories. No, this shrine was filled with shadows, with whispers, with something sinister curling through the air like smoke. Torches burned along the walls, their flames blue instead of yellow. Strange carvings pulsed with light. And there, kneeling before the central altar, was someone she knew.
Jabari. Kalima's eyes widened in shock. He wasn't performing a ritual of honor.
No, his hands were filled with Malondo, the very herb her father was accused of
stealing.
He was chanting words forbidden to ordinary elders, dark invocations to spirits not of the ancestors but of greed, power, and deception. On the altar, a clay pot glowed red-hot, filled with something thick and smoking.
Jabari sprinkled the sacred herb into the pot and laughed quietly.
The council believes what I want them to, he said to himself.
Soon the shrine will be mine alone.
And Musa. Musa will never threaten my authority again. Kalima felt her stomach twist. Rage coiled inside her like a serpent ready to strike.
So he really had done it. He had desecrated the shrine himself. He had framed her father. He had destroyed her family for power.
Kalima trembled with fury. Then Jabari turned
and stared directly at her. Her breath caught. But his eyes were empty. He wasn't seeing her. He was seeing something else, some vision inside the shrine. Isoba's voice whispered through the darkness.
This is truth. The truth you must carry. But beware, he is not alone in this.
A shadow emerged behind Jabari. Another elder. Kalima's heart froze.
A second betrayer. Before she could see the face, the vision shattered like broken pottery. She gasped as she was thrown back into the clearing before Isoba. Her knees buckled. She fell trembling to the forest ground.
Isoba's voice filled the air once more.
You have seen the rot beneath Okwand. Kalima looked up, tears mixing with rage. Jabari, and someone else. They destroyed my family. And now, Isoba said, you know what must be done.
Kalima rose slowly to her feet. Her hands were steady. Her voice calm.
Her eyes filled with fire.
I will return, she said.
I will expose them. I will make them answer for everything.
Isoba bowed his head.
Then, Kalima of Okwand, you are ready.
The blue path brightened beneath her feet.
The forest itself seemed to bow.
Kalima took a deep breath. Tomorrow, she would begin the journey back to the village.
Tomorrow, the battle for truth would begin. And Jabari would regret ever touching her family's name. Part 4. Night hugged the forest like a giant cloak of shadows. But for the first time since her family's banishment, Nia walked without fear. The spirits had unveiled their truth. The ancestors had spoken through flame and wind. Her grandmother's voice echoed not as a memory, but as a presence.
A guide. A warning. A promise.
Still, the weight of what she had learned pressed heavily against her chest. The corruption ran deeper than rumors, deeper than whispers. It ran into the heart of the village leadership itself, into the seat of the council she once respected with childlike awe. The faces she bowed before, the hands she accepted blessings from, the elders she trusted, they were the ones who had destroyed her family. The fireflies fluttered like sparks as she stepped deeper into the sacred forest path leading back to the exile camps. She carried with her the carved wooden mask the ancestors had granted her, its strange markings glowing faintly whenever she held it close. She didn't know exactly how to wield its power yet, but she felt its heartbeat against her palm like a living creature. As she walked, the tall trees whispered like gossiping old women. The forest drums began again, slow and distant, dee-dum, 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 and her pulse fell into rhythm with them. When she reached the exile valley, her family and the scattered villagers were gathered around a crackling fire. The moment they saw her appear out of the dark, her mother gasped and ran to her, embracing her so fiercely that Nia felt ribs touch ribs. "Where did you go?"
Mama cried.
"Child, I thought the forest swallowed you whole." "I'm all right, Mama," Nia whispered, though her voice trembled. "The ancestors showed me something we must all hear." Her father approached, confusion and relief mixed across his weary face. His once strong shoulders were slumped from the burden of injustice, but his eyes, those warm, steady eyes, held the flicker of hope again. Nia stood on a flat stone near the fire, the mask held behind her back. The villagers, their clothes torn from labor, their bodies bruised by unjust punishments, gathered close. These people had been loyal to the village. Innocent. Banished for crimes they never committed. She cleared her throat. "Listen to me," she began, her voice louder than she expected. "I went to the Forest of Whispers. I asked the ancestors for truth. And they answered." A hush rippled through the crowd. "They showed me what really happened the night the village grain stores were burned. They showed me who framed us." "Who?" someone cried. "Tell us the truth," another shouted. She lifted the mask. Its glow intensified, making the villagers gasp and step back. "It was Elder Mbeku," Nia said, her voice steady. "He orchestrated the fire. But he didn't act alone. Elder Kofa and the war chief, Baruti, helped him." A wave of shock tore through the people like a storm wind. "That cannot be," an old man exclaimed. "Mbeku is the head of the council." "He is the one who banished us," a woman cried. Nia nodded firmly. "Yes. And that is why he did it. They blamed us to hide their own corruption. They wanted power, and they wanted the sacred ivory drum for themselves." A young man stepped forward. "But why? Why go to such lengths?" Nia's voice softened. "Because the ivory drum is said to reveal lies. Anyone touched by its sound cannot hide truth in their heart. Elder Mbeku feared exposure. So he stole it, then blamed us." Anger erupted among the exiles, raw and shaking. Mothers clenched their children tighter. Fathers clenched their fists. Old men muttered curses. Young ones muttered revenge. Her father turned to her, voice choked. "How can we fight the council, Nia? They have soldiers. They have authority. We have nothing." Nia stepped closer to him, touching his hand. "No, Baba, we have truth. And we have the ancestors on our side." Suddenly the wind shifted, cold, sharp, and unnatural. The flames of the campfire turned blue for a heartbeat. Nia felt a presence beside her, then behind her, then circling the crowd. Whispers rose, 100 voices at once, but none human. One of the elders from the exiles fell to his knees. "The ancestors, they are here." The mask throbbed in Nia's hand. Her grandmother's voice whispered in her ear. "Child, the time of hiding is over. Speak your vow." Nia raised the mask above her head. "I make this oath before the spirits and my people," she declared. "I will march to the village.
I will confront Eldon Baku and reveal everything he has done.
I will restore our family's honor, or I will die trying.
Her mother gasped.
Nia, no.
Her father grabbed her shoulders.
This is not your burden alone.
But Nia shook her head.
I am the one the ancestors chose. I cannot run from this. She lowered the mask, and its glow faded into a dim pulse.
Her father bowed his head.
Then we walk with you. Voices rose in agreement. We go together. No more fear. No more hiding.
But Nia lifted her hand sharply. The crowd fell silent. No, she said gently.
If all of you go, the council will declare war and kill every last one of us.
This is something I must start alone.
If I fall, then you may rise. But first, let me try to face them. Her words sliced through the night like the edge of a blade. Then an old woman stepped forward, her back bent, her face lined like cracked earth. She opened a small leather pouch and pulled out a delicate woven bracelet made of red and gold beads.
This is for you, Nia, she said.
It belonged to a warrior from long ago. Wear it, and the spirits of ancient protectors will stand at your left side.
Nia's throat tightened as she accepted it.
Thank you, Mother Yora.
Another villager stepped forward with a clay pot. Take this, he said. Sacred ash from the shrine.
Add it to the mask when you face your enemies. Others stepped forward. Food, water, charms, wishes, prayers. Hope had been dead among these people, but Nia had rekindled it. When dawn washed the valley in soft orange light, Nia wrapped herself in her mother's cloak, tied the warrior bracelet around her wrist, and strapped the ancestor mask to her back. Her little brother, Cato, ran up to her, eyes wide and watery.
Will you come back? She knelt and kissed his forehead.
I promise.
But as she stood, the promise trembled inside her.
She didn't know if it was true. She didn't know if she would survive shadow or fire or blade.
All she knew was this.
She was no longer the girl who watched her family be dragged through the village in shame.
She was something else now.
She began her journey as the sun rose, sending rays of gold through the mist. Her steps were slow at first, then faster, steady, determined, fearless. When she reached the boundary where the forest ended and the village fields began, she saw something that made her heart stutter.
2 village guards, standing tall, waiting for her. One of them raised a hand.
Nia of the banished family, he said coldly.
You are under arrest.
The council demands your capture. Her blood turned to fire.
But she remembered the ancestors' whisper. Slide the mask. Do not fear.
Nia reached behind her and drew the mask over her face. The world changed instantly. Colors glowed brighter. Air hummed with energy. The guards' bodies radiated the black smoke of lies. The mask whispered, expose them. She lifted her hand and inhaled.
Wind spun around her like a tiny cyclone. The guards staggered.
What magic is this? Nia's voice came out deeper, layered with spirits. The magic of truth.
She stepped forward.
The guards tried to grab her, but, strangely, their hands passed through her like she was mist. They fell backward in terror.
Go, she commanded.
Tell Eldon Baku I am coming.
They scrambled away, tripping and choking on their own fear.
Nia removed the mask, panting. The power was overwhelming, yet exhilarating.
She continued toward the village. By mid-morning, she reached the entrance gate.
Villagers whispered as she walked past them, some shocked, some afraid, some curious. The council hall stood ahead, with tall pillars carved with the history of her people. The place where her family had been condemned, where lies were believed over truth. She stepped into the hall without hesitation. The elders sat in a half-circle. Mbeku, gray-bearded and cold-eyed.
Kofa, the sly one. Baruti, the war chief with arms thick as tree trunks. Mbeku smirked. The little girl returns.
What brings you here? Another plea for mercy. No, Nia said calmly. I bring truth.
Mbeku leaned back.
And what truth would a child like you carry? Nia drew the mask slowly and placed it on her face. Gasps echoed across the hall. A gust of wind punched through the doors, slamming them shut. The torch flames trembled like they recognized a higher power. Nia's voice thundered, layered with ancestors. I bring the truth of your crimes.
Baku's smirk vanished.
You framed us, she continued. You burned the grain stores.
You stole the ivory drum.
You banished innocent families to hide your shame. Silence. Baruti roared, standing with a hand on his blade. But the mask unleashed a pulse of energy that threw him back into his seat. Villagers crowded the doorway, peering in as the wind circled the room.
Nia stepped forward.
Confess, Eldam Baku. Baku stood, trembling despite himself.
But he tried to speak boldly.
No one will believe the word of her. Before he finished, the torches burst into blue fire. The mask spoke through Nia. Tell
the truth.
Baku fell to his knees, hands shaking. I had no choice, he stammered. If the ivory drum revealed my dealings, I would lose everything. I needed to keep power.
Gasps exploded in the hall.
Kofa tried to run, but the doors slammed shut magically. Baruti cursed and grabbed a spear, but it grew too hot to hold. Nia lifted her hand toward the ivory drum hidden behind the council seat.
It slid through the air and landed in front of her. She struck it once. Boom.
The sound vibrated the bones of everyone present. Everyone's lies, fears, and secrets rippled in the air like smoke. Nia removed the mask, staring at the elders with her own eyes now. Your reign ends today. Baku collapsed, sobbing. Kofa fainted.
Baruti trembled like a child.
The villagers began chanting her name.
Nia. 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 But she did not smile. Not yet. She simply turned toward the doorway.
The time for final judgment had come. And her revenge had only just begun. Part 5. The council hall trembled with the weight of truth. It was as if the walls themselves, carved with the stories of past chiefs and proud warriors, strained to listen, shocked that corruption had dared to sit upon the same chairs once occupied by honorable leaders. The villagers crowded outside, murmuring, gasping, pointing, trying to understand how their world had shattered in a single morning.
Nia stood at the center of it all.
Her small frame, wrapped in her mother's cloak, seemed to glow in the sunlight that filtered through the windows. The ivory drum lay at her feet, vibrating with an ancient hum. The ancestor mask hung against her back, warm like living skin. But inside her chest, her heart still hammered wildly. Not out of fear, but out of the heavy responsibility suddenly pressed upon her shoulders. She had exposed the elders, but now the village looked at her not just as a girl, not even as a warrior. They looked at her as a leader.
And she didn't know if she was ready for that.
Baruti, the once feared war chief, still trembled in his seat, lips pressed tight as.
He fought the urge to kneel.
Baku remained collapsed on the floor, sobbing into his robe as the last remnants of power drained from him like water slipping through cracked fingers. His pride, once towering over the village like a mountain, now lay in dust. Kofa, the sly elder, clutched his chest, gasping, struggling to understand how a child had undone everything he protected with lies. Nia took one slow breath, then another. Her father had once told her, "Courage is not loud. Sometimes it is a quiet breath you take before you face your destiny."
This was her breath. She stepped forward.
The elders flinched as if the movement itself were a blade. "You destroyed innocent families," she said softly, her voice steady but carrying across the hall. "You banished us, stole from us, humiliated us, treated us like shadows. Did our loyalty mean nothing to you?" Baku tried to speak, but his voice cracked.
I was afraid. Afraid of losing what I built. Afraid of being seen as weak.
Afraid the drum would expose everything.
Nia shook her head slowly. Power built on lies is not power.
It is a sickness.
Kofa pushed himself up.
"Girl, you cannot decide our fate. You have no authority." Before Nia could respond, a deep voice rose from the doorway. She speaks with the authority of truth.
The crowd parted.
An old man, more ancient than any elder in the hall, walked in with the help of a carved staff. His eyes were milky with age, but his voice carried the strength of thunder.
The villagers gasped.
It was Elder Enduma, the longest-living former council chief, the one who had retired many seasons ago due to sickness. No one had seen him in months. Even Baku's breath hitched. Elder Enduma, we were told you could no longer stand.
He lifted his head. Yet I walked today because the ancestors called me.
They whispered your crimes in my dreams.
He turned to Nia.
Child, you have done what even courageous warriors before you failed to do. You broke the silence of corruption.
Nia bowed her head respectfully. Enduma faced the disgraced elders.
Your punishment will not be decided by fear or anger. It will be decided by the truth you tried to bury.
He lifted his staff and struck the ground once.
A deep rumble echoed through the hall. Dust fell from the ceiling. The ivory drum glowed softly.
The village will gather, Enduma declared.
And judgment will be spoken by the people, not by a corrupt council.
The villagers erupted with cheers and chants.
Justice, long forgotten, breathed again. The guards arrived soon after, not to protect the elders, but to escort them to the center of the village where the great tree stood. The elders were dragged, trembling, humiliated, through the same path where Nia's family once walked in tears during their banishment. Now the villagers pointed at them, demanded answers, shouted questions, cried out in anger. This is what you put us through. Our children starve because of you. Explain yourself, traitors of the village. Baku covered his ears, shaking with shame.
But Nia's heart tightened as she watched.
Revenge had been her mission, but seeing another human crumble under the weight of their wrongdoing filled her with a strange ache. Her grandmother's voice whispered gently in her mind, Revenge can burn everything, child, even the innocent parts of your soul. Seek justice, not destruction. When they reached the great tree, a massive, ancient baobab whose roots twisted like the fingers of giants, the villagers formed a wide circle. Drummers stood near the edges, beating a slow, steady rhythm. The sound vibrated the ground beneath their feet.
Enduma stepped into the center.
Village of Nduvu, he announced, today we face our own shadows.
The rhythmic drumming paused. All eyes fell on Nia.
She walked forward, mask in hand, drum at her side. The air around her felt charged with ancestral energy.
Enduma gestured toward her.
Speak, child.
Nia swallowed hard.
These elders betrayed us.
They framed us. They stole the ivory drum.
They burned the grain stores to hide their sins. Gasps echoed again, but she continued. And they banished us, knowing we were innocent.
The people roared in anger. Mothers cried. Old men beat the ground with their fists.
Young warriors shook their spears.
Baku raised weak hands.
Forgive, please, forgive me. Nia lifted the ivory drum.
I will strike this drum once, she said.
And in its echo, the ancestors will reveal if you speak the whole truth.
The villagers held their breath. She raised her hand, then struck. Boom. The sound rippled like thunder rolling across 1,000 miles.
Everyone felt it through their bones. Even the leaves on the great tree shivered. Baku wailed, falling to his knees. Kofa bowed his head, trembling. Baruti clenched his fists, but the truth escaped his lips anyway. I helped Mbaku, he confessed helplessly. He promised me power, promised me the chief's throne. I agreed to destroy the grain stores. I lied to the council.
The villagers shouted curses.
Kofa gritted his teeth as the drum's magic forced the truth from him. I took bribes from outsiders. I helped them steal livestock. When Baku threatened to expose me, I helped him banish the innocent families.
The crowd erupted again, this time with fury so deep it felt like a storm about to break. Enduma raised his staff.
Silence. Everything quieted. The elders will be stripped of their titles, he declared. They will work the fields beside the people they corrupted. They will rebuild the homes of those they ruined. And they will never again hold positions of power. The villagers cheered, banging drums, stamping feet, chanting in triumph. Justice! At last!
But Nia wasn't finished. She stepped forward, voice trembling.
There is one more thing.
Enduma turned to her.
Speak it, child. Nia looked around at the villagers, faces she once knew so well, people who once smiled at her family, then turned away when lies poisoned their hearts.
My family was innocent, she said. So were the other exiles. But we suffered. We starved. We were beaten.
We were ashamed.
Her voice cracked slightly. We deserve to come home. Silence spread.
Then a woman in the crowd stepped forward, tears streaming down her face.
You are right, she whispered.
We wronged you.
A young man followed.
Forgive us, please. One by one, villagers knelt.
Some cried. Some bowed their heads. Some lifted their hands in apology.
Nia's chest tightened with emotion. She had dreamed of this moment, imagined it, hoped for it, but never truly believed it would come.
Enduma nodded solemnly.
Your family, and all the exiled families, will return. Today, the gates of Nduvu opened to them.
Cheers erupted again. Drums resumed, playing joyous rhythms. Children danced. Women ululated.
Men stomped the earth in celebration. Her parents were brought forward through the crowd, tears streaming down their cheeks. Her mother covered her face as villagers touched her hands, apologizing.
Her father pulled Nia into a tight embrace.
You did it,
he whispered.
You brought us home.
Nia held him tightly. Not alone. The ancestors helped.
And the truth helped. As the celebration grew louder, Nia stepped aside, overwhelmed. She walked toward the great tree, leaning a hand against its smooth bark. A soft wind curled around her like an embrace.
Then she heard it.
A familiar voice, gentle and warm. You have restored balance, my child. She looked up, and for a moment, saw a shimmering silhouette, her grandmother, smiling softly.
Nia's throat tightened. I wanted revenge, she whispered.
But justice feels different.
Revenge satisfies anger. Justice heals the soul.
Her grandmother's ghostly hand brushed Nia's cheek. You chose well. As the spirit faded, Nia felt something deep within her shift. It was as if the ancestors placed a new flame in her heart, one that would burn for generations.
Enduma approached quietly.
Nia, he said, the village will need a new protector. Someone with the courage to speak truth, even when it is dangerous.
She turned to him slowly.
You want me to join the council?
Enduma smiled. No.
I want you to lead it.
Her breath caught. Lead?
She looked back at the villagers, cheering, celebrating, welcoming her family home.
She saw hope in their faces. She saw trust. She saw expectation.
And then she saw a girl, herself, standing on the day of her banishment, watching her home disappear behind her. If that girl could survive everything, then maybe the young woman she became could carry the village forward.
Nia bowed her head.
If the ancestors guide me, I will accept.
Enduma smiled proudly.
Then let the drums announce it. He raised his staff, and the drummers struck a thunderous rhythm. Doom, 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 dah. The villagers erupted with joy, chanting her name. Nia the brave. Nia the truth speaker. Nia the warrior of the ancestors.
Her family embraced her again. Children danced around her. Women wrapped her in bright cloth.
Warriors saluted her with their spears. And above them all, the great tree swayed in the wind, whispering ancient blessings.
Nia stood tall. Her family was restored.
The truth had triumphed.
Justice was served.
And the girl who once trembled under the weight of injustice now stood as the protector and leader of her people.
A new legend was born.
One that would be told around fires for generations. The story of the brave girl who faced powerful corruption.
Listen to the ancestors. and brought a village back to the light.
And so, under the watchful eyes of the ancestors and the whispering leaves of the great tree, Nia's journey came full circle. She had walked through exile, fear, darkness, and ancient secrets, only to return stronger than anyone could have imagined. Her courage shattered corruption. Her truth restored her family's honor. And her spirit became the heartbeat of a new beginning. From that day forward, the village of Nduvu would never forget the young girl who rose from injustice to become their guiding light. Around evening fires, the elders would tell it to their children, and those children would tell it to theirs. When lies try to rule, truth will always find a voice. When darkness falls, a brave heart will always rise. Nia became the leader who listened, not just to the people, but to the ancestors, to the spirits of the forest, to the drumbeats of destiny. And long after her footsteps faded from the earth, her legend remained. A reminder that even the smallest voice, when carried by truth and courage, can shake an entire world. Thank you for joining this journey through fire, shadow, and spirit. If you enjoyed this tale, don't forget to like, share, and follow for more powerful African folktale stories. Stories where truth triumphs, courage rises, and heroes are born from the unlikeliest places. Until the next story, may your path be guided, your heart be brave, and your spirit always rise.